That night, the world went quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from peace, but from being forgotten. I lay there in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. The clock on the wall blinked to 47 a.m. The nurse had done her last round, the lights were dim, and the hallway outside my room was empty. I could hear the machines breathing for me, steady, cold, mechanical. I remember whispering, "Is this how it ends, Lord?" In a room where no one knows I'm still alive. My son hadn't called in weeks. My daughter said she was too busy with work. Even the church folks stopped visiting after the doctors told them there was nothing more they could do. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of pretending I was strong. Tired of hearing my own heartbeat echo in an empty room. That night, I prayed the smallest prayer of my life. Not for healing. Not for miracles. Just for company. I said, "Lord, if I'm really going home tonight, please don't let me go alone." And that's when I felt it. The air in the room shifted. The machine beside me beeped once, like it caught its breath. And then, I wasn't alone anymore. I couldn't see faces. But I felt them. Presence all around me. Gentle, calm, like light had taken shape. I thought I was dreaming. But even in dreams, you don't feel peace like that. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Because I knew. The angels had come, perfect. Here's section 2, the angel's touch. This is the emotional core moment where loneliness turns into divine comfort. It's cinematic, slow, and full of warmth. Made to give chills to your us audience and keep them glued from the first second. I don't know how to explain it. How do you describe something holy when your own words feel too small? At first, it was just light. Soft, golden light, like the sunrise sneaking through the blinds. But it wasn't morning. It was still dark outside. The room didn't glow from the lamps. It glowed from them. There were 3 of them, not standing, not floating, just there. The air shimmered around their shapes, like warmth taking form. And the strangest part, I wasn't afraid. You'd think a dying woman seeing angels would scream. But all I felt was peace. The kind that wraps around you like a soft blanket after years of cold. One of them came closer. I couldn't see a face, but I saw light moving like it was breathing. And then, I felt a hand on mine. That touch, it wasn't human. It was warm but weightless. And for the first time in months, the pain in my chest stopped. My body didn't feel sick anymore. My lungs didn't ache. My tears dried before they could even fall. I just was. And then I heard it, not out loud, but inside me. A voice, gentle as a breeze. "You are not forgotten." I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. I just nodded. Because I knew God had heard my smallest prayer. They didn't stay long. Just enough for me to feel love again. Love so heavy and pure, it filled every crack my loneliness ever left. And as they faded, the room went quiet again. But it wasn't the same kind of quiet as before. It wasn't empty anymore. Because even though the angels left, I knew they hadn't really gone. They'd left something behind. Peace. And the will to live again. When I opened my eyes, I thought I was still dreaming. The room didn't look the same. The darkness was gone, replaced by sunlight pouring through the blinds like a promise. I turned my head slowly. The 4 was still there, the monitors still beeping. But the pain that had been eating me alive for months, it was gone. I sat up a little. My body felt light. I looked down at my hands, the same hands that had trembled all night. They were still. The nurse came in, nearly dropped her clipboard when she saw me. She said, "Miss Evelyn, you're sitting up." I smiled and said, "Yes, baby. And I think I'll be walking soon too." She ran to call the doctor. I could hear her voice shaking as she said, "You need to come see this." Within minutes, my room was full. Doctors, nurses, even a chaplain. They checked the machines, looked at my scans, whispered to each other. One of them said, We must have miscalculated. It's impossible. And I told him, you didn't miscalculate anything, sweetheart. Heaven just did some rearranging. He stared at me like he wanted to believe, but didn't know how. So I said, you don't have to understand a miracle to stand in one. They ran every test they could think of. My numbers, my breathing, my heart. Everything was normal. Better than normal. That afternoon, I walked, slow, shaky, but free. Every step felt like a thank you. Every breath felt like an answered prayer. The nurse asked me what happened that night. I told her the truth. I wasn't alone. I had visitors. She looked confused, so I smiled. Angels, I said. God sent angels. And that's when I realized I wasn't meant to die that night. I was meant to tell what happened. Perfect. After that night, I didn't just feel healed. I felt different. Like my heart had been rewritten in the language of grace. Every morning, when I opened my eyes, I whispered the same words. Thank you for another sunrise. Because once you've seen angels, you don't take mornings for granted anymore. The doctors said I was a medical miracle. But I knew better. This wasn't science. This was mercy. So I started writing again. Letters, prayers, little notes of gratitude. I wrote to people I hadn't spoken to in years. My children. My old church friends. I told them I forgave them, and I meant it. See, when you've been that close to heaven, you stop holding grudges. You start holding hands instead. A few weeks later, I went back to the hospital, not as a patient, but to visit the ones who were still fighting. I walked those same halls, the same rooms where hope felt lost. There was a woman crying alone in her bed. Her family had stopped visiting too. I sat beside her, held her hand, and said, you may feel forgotten, but heaven never forgets. She looked at me, tears falling down her cheeks, and whispered, you're the first person to say that to me. That's when I knew. That was why I was still here. The angels didn't just come to heal me. They came to send me. Every story I share now, every person I comfort. It's not from me. It's from the message they left behind. You are never alone. I used to think faith was something you reached for, but I learned that night. Faith reaches for you. And if you're still breathing, if you're still watching this right now, that means God's not done writing your story either. I used to be afraid of dying. I thought the end of the road meant the end of my purpose. But now I know. The end of your strength is where God begins his. That night, when I lay alone, I asked for company. And heaven sent more than company. It sent comfort. It sent proof. You see, child, when the world leaves you behind, that's usually when God is getting closer, because sometimes you have to lose everyone to finally hear him whisper your name. I don't have the words to explain everything that happened that night, but I can tell you this. I went to sleep broken, and I woke up brand new. They said I had 6 months. That was 3 years ago. I still wake up every morning, still make my tea, still sit on this porch and talk to the Lord like he's right beside me, because he is. So if you're listening right now, and you're fighting something you think you can't win, hold on. Don't give up before your miracle comes. Don't let loneliness tell you that heaven is quiet, because even in the darkest room, God still sends light. And if you ever feel forgotten, remember my story. I was left to die alone. But that night, angels walked into my room, and I've never been alone since. My name is Evelyn, and this is my testimony.